All right, so in this particular presentation, I just want to go over a couple of questions that I've gotten from investors over the last week or so, and also encourage all of you, if you have questions or you see something you don't quite understand, go ahead and just reach out to me, via my email, which I've shared a bunch of times. Go to the website, One Rental at a Time. There's plenty of ways to get a hold of me and ask questions. So with that, we'll just get started. So first, we're going to go ahead and just share the questions and then sort of give a detailed breakdown of what I think about them. We're going to go ahead and just remind you once again, there's lots of ways to get the content that I have out there. There's the YouTube channel, One Rental at a Time, the website, which is finally up at onerentalatime.com, and of course, you can always go ahead and just email me. And as always, I want to wish all of you good investing. So a question, what would you do if? So let me set the story up for you as best I can. So in this particular situation, an investor purchased a property years ago. Let's assume that this property is in a hot market, and you could define a hot market with however you'd like. But in essence, the property is worth a lot more than what he had purchased it for. So, without giving real numbers, let's assume that they bought it for $300 and it's worth $450 today. So it's not a bad thing, right? It's worth 50% more than what they bought it for. However, the property has never produced cash flow, right? It's a zero, which means, in my opinion, my experience says that's the best months at zero. So there will be times when it's negative because it only goes one direction when there's surprises or repairs or turns or whatever. So in essence, got a hot property, appreciation's going. Frankly, the market's still hot. What do I think? Well, as I said, I think in video number 3, and I've acknowledged in the book, I truly believe in this notion of no alligators. And I actually had a friend develop this image, right? So hopefully it means something to you. Again, an alligator is something that consumes cash. And again, I hear it all the time. I can afford it. It's only a couple $100. No big deal. Trust me, it's a big deal. You can't get to the portfolio to retire on when you have a portfolio full of alligators. I don't care how much you make. Eventually, you're going to have enough alligators where it's no fun. They are dangerous. They hurt. I will not let you not only buy a property that consumes cash, but I'll even discourage you from creating an alligator. As I admitted in the book, one of the first properties we bought, actually the first property we bought, it was great for us. We were so excited. The market was hot like it is today. We refied it and turned it into an alligator. After a few months of that nonsense, that was clearly a mistake. Even though we used the cash and we bought more properties and, it all worked out. I can tell you, having an alligator, that one property that consumes cash every month, is not fun. Don't do it. So again, my beliefs, never buy or create an alligator. I frankly don't care about appreciation. I obviously invest in hot markets, and the hot markets are great and appreciation is great. I don't invest for that. I don't use it as part of my calculations. I don't use it as part of my thought process. I am only looking for properties that allow me to sleep well at night, produce hundreds of dollars of cash flow, expected cash flow, because maybe there's a month where it's bad. But I don't go, the property increased 10 grand this quarter, so I don't care if I had to feed it $700. I don't think that way. I understand how sexy it is to say that you're in Seattle, or you're in Orange County, or you're in Miami, or you're in New York City, or Paris, or Hong Kong, or whatever. But those good times vanish. I've lived through cycles where it's not fun to say you're in all those cities. Those cities could have seen a price drop of 30+%, and where you're all excited one year, you're crushed the next year. So just don't do it. That said, I do use hot markets to clean up my portfolio. Maybe there was a property I purchased that I thought would produce 200 or 225, and for whatever reason it produces 75 or 0 or whatever. I'll use a hot market to get rid of properties. So, you know, I think there's a saying in the stock market: bulls make money, bears make money, but pigs get slaughtered. So I wouldn't turn away from a hot market. I would personally look to sell a property. So that's what I told this investor. I said, well, again, I know it's counterintuitive and you'll probably feel like an idiot for a long time because the market he's in is growing and likely sees years of growth ahead of it. But I told him I would 1031 out of that property. Again, sell it, take the equity, put it in a trust account so that you can move it tax-free into other investments. Again, I don't think a lot of people would sort of say that, but that's what I believe. And again, I'm thinking not only about this situation, but trying to look into the future. And all things change. And I've lived through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in real estate. So I speak from experience. Here's another question. So somebody actually went through the book and asked a question about my deal analysis spreadsheet. And there's like, well, I don't see a vacancy factor. So let me just highlight what they were looking at. And this again is in the book, which it's free and everybody can have. Just go to the website and ask for it. But just going quickly from left to right, just so you can see it here. It's in color in the book. So and I think I've actually done a video on this. But you can see there just on the far left, it's the type of property. Is it a 2-1, 3-1 house, 3-2? That's bedrooms and bath count. There's a price. DP is down payment. RC is repair cost, sometimes called make ready. Closing cost is CC. Again, these metrics are important to me because I'm very interested in the yield, which you'll see on the far right, which is what is my expected return on all cash outlaid. Next column are the expenses, right? MP is mortgage payment. IT is insurance and taxes. PM is property management. Then there's the expense column, what the total expenses. So the short answer is I don't have a different column for vacancies. It's something I factor in. I would just group that into my expense column. That's sort of a monthly bucket of expenses. So if you're, again, trying to do simple math here, if, you rent your properties for $1,000 a month and you're expecting, I don't know, 1 month's vacancy every year, then you would make sure that you take whatever that is, 1,000 divided by 12. Let's say it's 1,200 a month for easier math. You're renting it for 1,200 a month and you're expecting 1 month vacancy. So you would take $100, which 100 times 12 is your 1,200, and make sure that's included in the expenses. Then you would include all the extras that you're budgeting for. In my market, we're down to days and weeks for vacancies, at least in the current market. But again, make sure that you have vacancies included in your expense column. Their question really boiled down to having 2 months of vacancies, and that's expensive. I would tell you if you were having 2 months vacancies, lower the rent $50. It's better to get them in fast than have 2 months vacancy. So that's what I would have done in that situation. But anyways, then just to finish out the spreadsheet, after total expenses, you have the rent that you're expected. You have the expected monthly cash flow, which is just your income, which is rent minus monthly expenses, which is total expense column. Then I go ahead and take the yearly cash flow, which is simply 12 times monthly. And then I produce the yield, which is what I use to compare properties. So, and again, I'm shooting for a yield over 5% in the current market. But that's what I use, and that's where I have the vacancy factor. The other question from this individual was, what did you do with your cash between purchases? I mentioned, always being in the market and having to save up between purchases. And their question was, where'd you put it? Did you put it in an IRA? Did you put it in a stock market? What'd you do with it? And I didn't overthink this. I did create a separate account for property investment. It was actually at a separate bank, which I actually shredded the ATM card for. So I didn't have easy access to the money. I actually had to go to the physical location. I did not set up money transfers or anything like that. I actually created a separate account at a separate bank and did not do any of the automation. I didn't connect it with any of my other bank accounts because I didn't want to have access to it in a efficient and fast way. I wanted to basically go to the bank, wire money for a purchase, and that was it. So that's what I did. I didn't do anything else. Maybe I left some interest on the table. But again, I do think having a separate account at a separate bank, shred the ATM card, don't do online banking. At least that's what I did. So again, just keep the questions coming. I need help creating content, so the questions from you are very helpful. Never stop learning. Still learning, still reading, still watching the market. Lots of things going on. It's never boring. Just remember that real estate's not a get rich quick. This is not a, hey, I can be retired in 1, 2, or 3 years. Again, I've said it many times, but it took us 15 of active investing to get there. So realize it takes, for the first 10 years, it was really just small trickles and questioning ourselves and all of that. But it does happen. It does turn into meaningful capital. In the end, do me a favor, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. It really does help the channel. Always leave a comment, and if you can, go ahead and share this video with your friends and family that are thinking about real estate investing. Thank you very much.